remove my bags. In fact, there was an instance I got there and I wanted to remove my shoes. They said no, so I insisted, and then I removed my shoes, put it through, remove my watch and everything, because every Ghanaian is subjected to that. So I have never said because I'm a minister of state, and therefore if I get there, whatever is required to be done on any passenger who is going to board the flight, I should be given some special treatment. Even when you are traveling through and you are using the VVIP, your bag and everything will be scanned. You go through the scanner, you go through that. So I really don't know what she was expecting. More so, when the earlier communication from the presidency, the president is just a conveyor belt, as stipulated in Article 146. Who leaked the communication between the office of the president and her office? We're still looking for answers we do not know. And in all the arguments that have been made, not a single word or evidence of violation of any provision of the Constitution or any law in this country. Now, what shocked me also was the fact that she said that she had received threats. We each, I don't know what kind of threat, but what I expect a Chief Justice to do, when you receive threats, you report it to the appropriate body, in this case the police, so that they commence investigation into the matter. So for you to hold a press conference and say that you have been threatened, by who? Who threatened you? I really don't think that those advising her are doing her any good. Frankly, I don't think they are doing her any good. And for her to even make references to what happened in the murder of the Supreme Court justices, and made reference to the fact that she was sent to a room, reminding her of what is the import, and said that she knew that part of the decision to murder the justices took place in that particular room. How reckless and irresponsible could she be? There was a commission to investigate the matter of the murder of the judges. Is that not the case? Yeah. That woman never gave any evidence. And in fact, I remember when President Kufuor won the elections in 2000, the National Reconciliation Commission, these issues all came up as part of the reasons and evidences people were given. I am a young person. I can be of the age of her son. I was old enough at that time. And I guess she was old enough. So if she had information, why didn't she make the information available? And we are told by law that criminal acts, criminality doesn't have expiration date. And for her to do that, what message was she trying to put across? So if there was, which everybody condemned. And I don't think that, and people were actually found guilty, automatically, right?
Automatically, yeah.
And then executed for that murder. Is he telling us that there is so much information to that? So frankly, SENA, I don't want to belabor this issue so much, only to just ask that the woman should tell us the reason why she engages in some of these things. There are a lot of things that happen. My plea is that those advising her are not doing her any good. This one was done by private citizens of this country. And I guess there was a subtle attempt to bring in political parties into it. Unfortunately, it never got the currency that they wanted. And there isn't any evidence whatsoever that those people have anything in relation with at least the political party I belong to. So I think she should be quiet. Silence, they say, is golden. That could have even helped her matter. And last point, accusing and questioning the credibility and the integrity of colleagues Supreme Court justices on the bar. People she actually worked with. And I remember she famously stated that the law is the law. The law has always been the law. It is no respecter of anybody. Whether you are a Chief Justice, you are a Speaker of Parliament, you are a President, a Member of Parliament, a journalist, whoever you are, the law is no respecter of anybody. And that is why the law expects us to conduct ourselves in certain manner. And that if you fail to do so, the law will come after you. Maybe perhaps she thinks that she's no longer interested in the Supreme Court job. And frankly speaking, I think that the doors of resignation, I guess they are over. I mean, with that conduct, I agree with those who think that the conduct demonstrates someone who is absolutely unfit for the office of the Chief Justice of this country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you just join us, yes, this is the Mother of All Talk Shows, Alhaji Alhaji. We are here. And thank you for joining us. Please stay. We had some difficulties, technical difficulties. Thanks to our technicians, we've been able to resolve it to start the show. So we'll be keeping you company till noon when we usually close. Well, let me go to the former honorable member of Parliament for Tema Central.
SENA, once again, good morning to your viewers, good morning to your panelists. I think about 6 weeks ago I was here, and this issue came up. And I made a statement. I was sitting where Antocracy is sitting, and I said that by the time we are done with this, we'll be dragging a lot of things through the mud. And that the Chief Justice is not going to go down alone. I don't think she intends to go down alone. Because from all intents and purposes, it is obvious that she doesn't intend to come back to her position as Chief Justice. Because she stated categorically that she's going to fight, and her reasons for fighting is to, apart from preserve her honor, is to defend the downtrodden, in quotes. However, I don't have much to say on this, but I'm just saying that there's a maxim that says that he who seeks equity must seek equity with clean hands.
Yeah.
I think from where things are going, we'll end up dragging the whole judiciary through the mud. She's not going to go down alone. She's dragging some of her colleagues along. She's been mentioning names, Barman, and a few others. I think we nip it in the bud as quickly as possible as a civilized society. If there's evidence, let's adduce the evidence and let us move on. If there's no evidence, let it be. But for us to be going back and forth on this matter, and the way she's going, giving out press conferences, and don't forget that investors around the world are all watching us. You might think it's a localized problem, but it might be beyond this region. There are lots of people that look up to Ghana. There are countries that Ghana gives them their chief justices. Ghanaian judges have become chief justices in Botswana, in Kenya, in Gambia, who have all looked up, always look up to us to give them the quality of services or quality of leadership that Ghana is known for. So this thing is dragging our name in the mud, especially when it comes to investors. Because if people think that your chief justice can be hounded, or the chief justice goes out to say that she's being hounded, it's a big problem for you or for your market. So we should tread cautiously. I'm trying to play the devil's advocate and still walk the tightrope. We should tread very cautiously and come out of this thing without damaging the institution called the judiciary. The damage to that institution will spell a doom for this state called Ghana. Trust me. In the 60s, when Kwame Nkrumah forced out a chief justice, we all saw what happened. It became a domino effect. It catapulted into something else. Obviously, we have matured over the last 40, 50 years, and that should not be a thought process. But so we take cue from what has happened in the past and must learn from it. So I want cool heads to reign, that people can sit behind the table and take a decision. If she can resign and move on, she let it be so. But if you have to find a package for her, find a package for her. Let us find an amicable solution to this than the banter that we are seeing in public. I'll end it there. Thank you, SENA.
Thank you. What the suspended Chief Justice has said is that she feels that resignation is off the table. She doesn't want to lose her entitlements. If she resigns, she will lose all the entitlements she'll be working for.
Work out a package for her so that she can exit.
Simply, that's all. Well, if you just join us, we're discussing the matter of the Chief Justice's press conference. Mr. Osu.
SENA, good morning to you and our co-panelists and your cherry viewers. Because the truth of the matter is that I find it very difficult referring to the conduct of Madam Gertrude Isabel Rabah and Araba. Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokono as the Chief Justice. Because nothing she has done since this petition surfaced shows that indeed she qualifies to be referred to as a Chief Justice, and I mean every word of it. You know, when the petition was sent to the presidency, I think I was one of those, among those that said, look, negotiate your exit. Take a cue from Abe Fortas in the US. When as a Supreme Court judge, he was also, in fact, in his case, he had taken $20,000 from the Wolfson Foundation. And at that time, there wasn't any law in the US that mandated any Supreme Court judge who was given a gift to declare. But Congress said, yes, once you have taken money, they couldn't trust your credibility. He processed the situation and said, for the sake of the judiciary, I will resign. They knew Nixon wanted to get him out, to get a more conservative Supreme Court judge in there. But he said, look, I'm only one, let me resign and let the judiciary be. So, on the basis of this, I advise that, madam, negotiate your exit. We have others in this country who could have helped you out. At that time, some of our brothers from the MPP did not help the matters. That is the truth of the matter. Because everything we have been told in Article 146 says that the proceedings and everything to do with impeachment or removal of a CJ has to be done in camera. But you and I were in this country when we heard or saw Vincent as if we go to court. He that had not been petitioned, he went to court that the CJ had not received a copy of the petition. How did Vincent de Sefa get to know that the CJ hadn't received a copy of the petition? Because the CJ had leaked that information to Vincent Teko Asifa. As if that was not enough. The counsel for Vincent Teko Asifa was Godfrey Dame. Is that not the case? The petition was given to the CJ. The matter became moot. And they submitted a supplementary or filed a supplementary motion that everything was unconstitutional, but they must stop everything, which was also dismissed by the Supreme Court. You see, if, like my brother said, if she was going to go down alone, that wouldn't be a problem. But this unwavering attempt to destroy institutions, the Chief Justice may think that she's only targeting the presidency and, for that matter, the government. But she's also hurting the image of the Council of State. In fact, she doesn't respect them at all. Because the Constitution is so clear that before you establish a prima facie case, it has to be done in consultation with the Council of State. 31 members of the Council of State, including former Chief Justice and Speakers of Parliament, President of the National House of Chiefs, a lot of chiefs on it, businessmen and so on and so forth. So is the Chief Justice telling us that all these people hate her, and that all these people can be manipulated to behave in a certain way? So now the attempt to remove this CJ happened during the Akufo-Addo's regime. Remember the petition that was filed by Professor Kwaku Asare? Yeah. He raised fundamental issues. That the CJ was attempting to do something that was unconstitutional. That is nominating judges to the Supreme Court. What are you doing in this country? Yeah. The president then, Nana Akufo-Addo, together with the Council of State, said they didn't see any questions that necessitated the removal of the CJ. He dismissed the petition. In fact, the president was so much concerned about why that petition had to be leaked. That was his focus. And that he was even looking at provisions within our criminal code, our jurisprudence, that could nail Professor Kwakwaza, so that by now you'll be languishing in his home for you attempting to remove the Chief Justice. He dismissed it. Now a new government comes to power. Someone petitions. A prima facie case is established. Committee is set up. You are asked to step aside. All these things are contained in our constitution. And you say someone is hunting you. Then it is the people of this country that are hunting you, because whatever is happening is contained in the constitution. And this constitution has been accepted by the people of this country. So if there are any wrongdoings happening, you must be angry at the constitution. And not individuals who are only doing what is expected of them under the laws of the land. When you yourself have said the law is the law. Now you see what she did the last time, SENA. If no contempt charges are brought against her, it has opened the floodlight. I bet you there is no case that will go to court that I will not comment on it. Take it from me. If contempt charges, if the woman is not cited for contempt, nobody can prevent anybody from commenting on a live case. Because that's what she has done. So lawless. So lawless. And we must not be counted on. I am very disappointed in the husband, honestly. Husbands are supposed to protect. He must not allow this to be continuing. What did she come to tell the people of this country as being violations? That she was searched. She was searched whilst attending to committee meetings. Hey, madam. So you were not supposed to be searched. What she has even done presupposes that the searching of her was very important. Can you imagine this woman going with cameras? She will go and video everything and edit and throw it into the system. So that is the one worry. The second worry has to do with the venue. Edu Lodge. SENA, you see where the High Court is. If I tell you what happened to my great-great-grandfather at that location, Nanedu. Anytime I am invited to this court and I remember what happened to Nanedu, I can't think far. But I'm compelled to go because I've been summoned. Everyone has an issue with the location, but go and speak your side of the story. You say location. So that one too cannot be countenance. Say the husband was not allowed to enter into the venue. The amounts of violations. And you wonder which provisions in the constitution says that when you are invited before any committee of inquiry, your husband or your wife must be by you. That one too is another matter that she spent so much time on. Say the first day his lawyer was not acknowledged. But what she failed to do, even if it's anything to go by, is that the subsequent days, was the lawyer allowed to do whatever he wanted? That one is absent. The Chief Justice tells us that in spite of the provisions in Article 146 or 144 thereof, that before judges are nominated to the Supreme Court, there has to be a consultation with the Judicial Council. So it's a practice, it's an established practice, that the Chief Justice, together with the Attorney General and the Ghana Bar Association, they give us the judges. Oh, she's exposing things. Oh. You ask yourself whether the Attorney General, the Ghana Bar Association, and the Chief Justice, they constitute the Judicial Council. His answer is an emphatic no. And this is supposed to be a violation. Then she takes on Daniel Ofori, clean. She doesn't respect the man at all. But you see, for her information, for the information of your viewers, I have said it here before. Daniel Ofori is not just Daniel Ofori, he's an investor. He has a huge investment in this country. So if you are talking about him, you must also be measured. Now, Daniel Ofori being matured, I'm sure you have read his response. He said he's not going to respond to the Chief Justice in spite of the clear lies or falsehoods told at the press conference. That is how things are supposed to be done. You are a Chief Justice. You are supposed to have led our justice system. You are supposed to have straightened the judiciary. The very person that is mandated to do that is now in the public space complaining of injustice. Then it marks of failure. That you don't have to be in that space. Look, Mr. Daniel Ofori raised 21 issues of misbehavior and 4 issues of incompetence. Go to the committee and explain your side. Now you are telling us that the committee, you are angry because the committee did not even give you a copy of the petition. So you ask yourself, which petition did she respond to the president? So she doesn't trust the president or the committee members because they could change it. Would it not benefit you if the president gave me petition A that contains issues to do with farming, and the committee is dealing with issues dealing with football? Who will lose? Would it not be the committee? These two must you come and tell us. She makes the point that she has received threats. Hey, madam, Tokonu to receive threats and will keep quiet? It will never happen. Palpable falsehood. She told the people of this country without evidence. And at the same time that she was telling us that she received threats and then be lambasting the people of this country plus the government, at the end of the program I saw 2 tall policemen offering protection to her. What a beautiful country. You go and speak your mind and after police guides you. Are you not happy with that? So, SENA, the long and short of what the Chief Justice came to do was to appeal to the people of this country to beg for her to have her entitlement. I mean, that is the summary to what she did. But to say that, you don't have to go round in circles. Acknowledge that you goofed. Should have negotiated your exit. But if you have realized that where things are going is not favoring, there is a way to go around it. Because he said now it's not an option because of a decided case. And that you could lose all your entitlement. So you are going to fight till the end. No, let us do something about entitlement if that is the case. So that we will have our peace of mind. But now you are discrediting your own colleagues. From Justice Foreman to Justice Siedu, to even those that sat on your case. Because when you went to the Supreme Court, one of the relief that you were seeking was that this whole committee hearing has to be heard in public. Is that the case? They refused. Now you are in the public. It means you don't even respect that decision. When you yourself have told us that when matters are before any court, we have no business commenting about them, then you come and do this against what is stated in the Constitution. By now she must be preparing herself to resign. But I would plead with this administration that if there are ways of, as it were, forgiving her wrongs, to look into the matter of her entitlement, because that seems to be the case. I'm not the president anyway. That could be looked at. And other than that, the anger that she is trying to go, it will not help her. I'll end it here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And he referred to that statement by Mr. Daniel Ofori, who says, my attention has been drawn to a media engagement on 25th June 2025 by the suspended Chief Justice, at which she publicly discussed the contents of my petition for a removal as Chief Justice and the proceedings in respect of the petition. the Chief Justice is acting in clear breach of the provisions of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, which requires the inquiry to be in camera. As a law-abiding citizen and out of respect for the constitutional process and the committee, I will not seek to go on the path of the suspended Chief Justice, not even to correct plain falsehoods in her statements. When it is constitutionally and legally appropriate to engage the public on matters regarding my petition and the process, I shall do so. Truth stands. And that's signed Daniel Ofori, who is one of the petitioners who have submitted a petition against the Chief Justice that have triggered Article 146 hearings that are currently being conducted by the committee. They are supposed to be in camera, but the Chief Justice gave us a taste of how she feels about how the committee is going about its work and the petition before the committee. Zabrat?
Well, last Wednesday, the suspended Chief Justice invited the media for a press conference. And she announced to the world that she cannot be Chief Justice again. She gave us reasons why nobody, under any circumstance, should appoint a person like her as Chief Justice of this country. One, she demonstrated an incapacity to rise above her prejudice. She demonstrated an incapacity to come out, of a family history which has clouded her judgment and affected her emotional stability. I mean, anybody suffering from these symptoms must not be allowed to be Chief Justice. Because we expect that whoever is Chief Justice will be fair to all those who appear before her. This one is incapable of being fair to all those who appear before her. One of the major complaints is this, that when the sittings are taking place, something to do with the murder of Major Aqua took place there. And that Major Aqua was her uncle who looked after her. And because of that, she's emotionally traumatized. These are her words. So I ask, Justice, Her Ladyship, Lordship Tokonu is sitting in the Supreme Court. And somebody appears before her, and the person is called Amatekwe. That person, ab initio, has lost his case. Ab initio. It doesn't matter how the case is presented, it doesn't matter the legal validity and so on. Simply being called a Amatekwe, trouble. Lost your case. And this is what she is saying. Okay? It's not that somebody is saying, she is saying. It is obvious from what she's saying, from what she herself is saying, that anything which is remotely connected to the murder of the judges and the retired army officer shifts her balance. So you can count the thousands, maybe millions of things that have some connection with that regrettable development in our history. Okay? Now, don't you forget that the NDC claims its beginnings from the PNDC. And don't you forget that one of those who was executed for that gruesome murder was a member of the PNDC. So the hostility to the NDC is established. And perhaps this is a window to understanding why some decisions were taken by her as Chief Justice. And this may also explain how somebody like her was jumped over her seniors to become Chief Justice. This press conference was very, very useful. And indeed, I wish that she would organize another one. So that we can begin to understand the person we're talking about. She says something else, which is very interesting. One of the things which traumatizes her is the absence of her husband. That in tense situations, when her husband is not around, she loses it. Wow. Head of the judiciary of Ghana. So when there are all these complicated constitutional issues before the Supreme Court and she's sitting in court, she's presiding over the Supreme Court, you have to bring her husband. Because if you don't bring the husband, trouble. Look, she said these things about herself. If somebody had said these things about her, I would have been very angry with the person. Yeah. But these are statements that she's making about herself. That in times of tension, the husband has to be in the room. So when there was that dispute over whether or not the speaker could actually suspend or remove members of parliament, and it became a heated argument, major political issue, and she was sitting in the Supreme Court. Was her husband in the court that day? And if the husband was not in the court, how did that affect her? Unbelievable. You see, SENA, unfortunately today we don't have enough time. One of the other things that the suspended Chief Justice did was to display her exceptional lack of knowledge of the law. I mean, what she did to herself that day at the press conference was terrible. Look, me, I haven't gone to law school. I am not a lawyer. In fact, the only law we learnt was in the Institute of Journalism where we did press law. Yeah. So, but there are some basic things that even us, we know. We know, for example, that the law is the text of the law itself, the hardcore text of the law, in addition to what is referred to as precedent, decisions of the courts, especially decisions of the Supreme Court. The suspended Chief Justice did not know that the Supreme Court, at least on 3 occasions, has pronounced on the confidentiality, the in-camera hearing of Article 146 cases. She didn't know. SENA, she didn't know. She says she doesn't know that the law says that the proceedings has to be held in camera. She didn't know. She didn't know the law.
The law is the law.
My goodness. I mean, look, SENA, there are 3 cases which the Supreme Court has determined on this matter. And first one is Justice Derry versus Tiger Eye. You remember, you recall that. Second one is the Ajay Chum versus the Attorney General. And the third one is the Ghana Bar Association versus the Attorney General. Our suspended Chief Justice did not know. Unbelievable. And the worst part is the fact that The suspended Chief Justice is now holding a press conference, looking all of us in the face and telling us that the judiciary can be manipulated for political purposes. The judiciary, she just left.
She's not even left.
She hasn't left.
Well, the judiciary she presided over. She is now telling us that it can be manipulated. Politicians can play games with the judiciary. So when she was sitting there as Supreme Court judge, what did she see? What did she do? And if indeed the judiciary can be so manipulated, is that not sufficient reason why we, the citizens of Ghana, must support every effort to reform the judiciary? Hey, Justice Isaba Tokonu, why did she do this to herself? You know, this is something that she should have allowed her worst enemies to do to her. But she chose to do it herself. She actually expended resources to do this damage to herself. I can't believe it. Anyway, be that as it may, now that we know, now that she has told us that in the absence of her husband she cannot function, now that she has told us that even when she enters a place, the height of the walls have effects on her. You remember that Edu Lodge, the walls of Edu Lodge are too high. It frightens her and so on. Well, she decided to do this to herself. I really, really, honestly pity her. What can I say? We don't have enough time. Let's leave it here.
Thank you. Thank you. One thing we both agree on is that I want more of those press conferences. Yes. Anyway, so that was a matter of the CJ. So what I'll do is I'll do at least some 5 comments from those of you who are listening to us. Then we'll turn to the Israel-Iran matter, or Israel-US-Iran matter. This is Dennis Yakwete, who says he was so sad that no less a person at the CJ could violate Article 1468 of the Constitution in the manner she did. Regrettably, the MPP standing on the said constitutional violation demanded from the AG and the President to respond to the CJ's call without first condemning her conduct, to suggest as though the MPP was the brainchild of the said press conference. Why won't the MPP direct its concerns to the fact-finding committee for the removal of the CJ, or better still go to courts, as they always do when the CJ herself did not think it wise and respectful to address her concerns in writing and address to the President on the quiet, consistent with Article 1468. That said, and given the conduct of the CJ in the said presser, should she be cleared of any wrongdoings eventually, will she be able to go back to the Supreme Court and work with the same colleagues she appeared to have accused to be complicit in a ploy to remove her, or those colleague justices must resign to give way for her to function? I just can't fix it. That's Dennis Yakwete who sent that message. Thank you, Dennis. And then there's James K. Saba who says, a fowl even struggles if it's to be killed. So I'm not surprised about the attitude of the suspended Chief Justice. A comment about the murder of the justices clearly portrays the fact that she says she's an MPP member. Madam Tokonu should stop lamenting and do the needful. James K. Saba join us. Hadi Pickfam says the suspended Chief Justice is trying to obtain public sympathy, which she doesn't deserve. Her stature as a lawyer, and she says one is using a veiled threat on her, is even problematic. How is she going to demonstrate same if she is ever asked to provide evidence? It is almost like telling the court that the issue before the court is spiritual. Courts do not deal with assumptions, rather hardcore evidence. The Chief Justice is just trying to be smart. At the rate she is dealing with the matter, any such threat would have been reported to the police. No amount of propaganda by the suspended Chief Justice will bring down the government of President John Dramani Mahama, inshallah. That's Hadi Pickfam who sent that. This one says, good morning, Senator. Bless you and your panelists. From Kucho, Mensha Zongo, Kumasi, please. About the CJ, I still don't understand her. Is she not a lawyer before becoming CJ? Well, if indeed she is not being a remote CJ, why is she making too much noise? She should act as independent, so we the Ghanaians will beg God to sympathize with her, not those in the MPP. And then the next says, SENA, to be told, clearly it looks like the Chief Justice's conduct has landed her in her current situation. But SENA, we all know there's a first time for everything, and some first time things open repetitive doors for other future issues. We failed to use an expose of our judges to sanitize the judiciary, but rather we said, let's think about Ghana's image. Always thinking about the international community whilst forgetting that it's the human behaviors that form the institution's image. The Chief Justice must be checked, and if found guilty, dealt with without mercy. And also we must see to it that our rooted political games is not what's pushing her out, and even look into some of the allegations she raised as we check her too. That's coming from SNET. As always, thank you. And then let me conclude. Courage from Ho Kokompero said, the simple question I want to ask is, does the employment letter given to the CJ by the former president more important and powerful than the Constitution? Because if I'm not mistaken, the CJ says she acted according to her employment letter. Courage sent that from Ho. Thank you very much. I wish I could go through more, but we are running a race with time. If you just join us, Mother World Talk Shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, of course, live on Pan-African Television. Thank you to those of you who are joining us on Facebook and also on YouTube. And of course, you can watch us on TV. And we are live on Radio Gold. Let's move to the matter of Israel versus Iran. When this week started, we didn't know how far it would go. But by the Wednesday when the CJ was addressing the press conference, there has since then been some uneasy ceasefire. Iran says, if Israel fire, we will fire. As long as they don't fire, we will not fire. That is the situation we have currently. Israel, a few hours after the ceasefire, was accusing Iran of firing a missile after the ceasefire. Iran says, we did not fire the missile, but if you fire in response to a missile we did not fire, we'll fire back. And so now we have that ceasefire in place. Israel has returned to what they've been doing for over a year now, beating down Gaza. Well, let's talk about that. And I start this time around with Honorable Ninoy Hansen, Norte.
Ninoy Hansen, Norte.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, SENA. In fact, the world is changing, and it's changing so fast. I like the analogy you gave with your missile fire. It's like some Tom and Jerry, cartoon game. But these are lives that are at risk. What is Iran? Iran is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. It's a 5,000-year-old civilization, continuous civilization that has never been defeated before. That is Iran. It is not a creation of some empire somewhere like Ghana. No. This is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. It has one of the oldest religions in the world, Zoroastrianism. People don't know. That's where it comes from, Persia. When you read the Bible and they talk about the three wise men going to visit Jesus at his birth, that was the three wise men that came from the east. They came from Persia. So even at Jesus' birth, Iran was there. Iran is not Israel. And Iran has taught Israel a very good lesson in the last few days. They have really beaten Israel, how do I call it? Taught them a lesson, whipped them. And it got to a point that Israel stopped media men from covering what was happening within their country. Why? Because Israel has become a bully. What is Israel? Israel is just a racist, neo-colonial, European outpost that is using apartheid and genocide to steal other people's lands. In fact, the people that find themselves in Israel today who claim to be Jews, majority of them are not Jews. They are Europeans, they are Kazakhs, especially the Ashkenazis, what we call Ashkenazi Jews. They are Kazakhs from somewhere near modern-day Ukraine, who converted to Judaism. True Jews are not white people, they are not European. They are Semites, they are black people, they are Africans. I even saw a map recently of Akan migration from Canaan to Ashanti or wherever. So there's a lot that is going on. There's no difference between Israel today and apartheid South Africa. There's no difference. No difference. They even share the same uniform. If you watch apartheid era military uniform and IDF uniform, it's the same. They even share the same name. One was IDF, the other one was SDF. It's the same formula, the same idea, the same white European supremacist thought process and mindset. There's a video recently I watched on YouTube called the BB Files. If you make time, watch it. It will tell you the mindset of Netanyahu and the government that he has formed today, with people that the Israeli government itself considers as terrorists. Ben Gvir and the other guy, Smotrich or whatever. These are people that their own country, their own governments have what do you call it? Tagged them as settler terrorists who are causing problems within the region and within the country. Israel itself as a country has problems with its own citizens. In fact, the definition of the state of Israel itself is problematic. Because if you have a state that is for only a certain section of its citizens, then there's a problem. Because today, me, as a Ghanaian, if I decide to convert to Judaism, I automatically have a right to go and live in Palestine, somebody else's land. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't. So it is a pure conflict between people who are for justice and people who want to promote injustice. It's as simple as that. But you should see the people that support the injustice. The Americans, the Europeans, the Australians, and Canada and co. Why? Because they perpetuated the same formula on the indigenous people of those other continents and those areas. It's the same formula. Nothing has changed. Insofar as we can we can control you or have access to your resources and we want it, we go for it. There's one thing that people are also missing when it comes to this conflict, that there's a huge gas discovery on the shores of Gaza. Huge. Trillions of cubic meters worth of gas. That everybody is eyeing. Israel is eyeing. Turkey is eyeing. Egypt is eyeing. And therefore, you find Egypt quiet, unable to speak on this matter, or side with the victims of this matter. Why? Because they want to share the gas with whoever wins on the other side. All these states that we talk about, Israel, Turkey, modern day Egypt, and the states around there, were all the creations of European powers that won or defeated the Ottoman Empire in 1919, 1921, the First World War. This was spoils of the booty. So a place like Cyprus, a portion was given to Turkey as a gift. So the same problem. Nothing has changed. Like we had a plebiscite in West Africa, parts of Togo became part of Ghana today. It was the same thing. They were all spoils of war. But the formula hasn't changed. What I want to drive at is that the formula hasn't changed. Even if I was in Iran's shoes, I would cancel the NPT agreement. I would withdraw from it. And also go and look for nuclear bombs. Because if somebody can wake up in the morning and preemptively come and strike you, claiming that he's stopping you from being able to defend yourself, then you might as well not be part of the agreements and defend yourself. You must quickly find the tools to protect yourself. Why don't they go to North Korea? Because North Korea has nuclear bombs. They can match them boot for boot. But even with the little that Iran has been able to teach them a lesson that I think has woken everybody up. Not to belabor the point, we need to look for solutions and the way forward. For me, I'm not a believer in the two-state solution. No. I believe, just like a two-state solution was not possible for South Africa, a two-state solution is not possible for Palestine. We have to either fight or negotiate. You fight till you get to a situation where negotiation becomes possible, and then you have two equal parties negotiating. And if Iran is leading the fight, so be it. All the resistance movements that are supporting the fight should continue. Whichever way we can support them. They are no different from MK and SWAPO and PLAN and all those groups that we put together in Africa to fight apartheid in South Africa, because creating a two-state solution is no different from creating the Bantu lands that the apartheid government tried to create in Southern Africa. So for me, I think now it is clear that there are two sets of people in this world: people that are for justice and people that are anti-justice. For me, I'm for justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. The problem that we are facing now is that even our Islamic brothers, who, let me say, are closer to the Muslims, Palestinians, because when you go to Palestine, they are Christians, they are Jews, they are Muslims, but the Muslims are dominant. And the Arabian region where the Muslims are dominant, they themselves are compromised. Even not just the ones in Arabia. Take a place like Indonesia. They have similar problems in Indonesia with the Western Papua people, where they treat the black Western Papua people as monkeys. When you go to the universities, they treat them as monkeys. They treat them as second-class citizens in the so-called Indonesia that they are a part of. So, for me, it's a one-state solution. Iran at this stage is leading the fight. Iran will prevail. I mean, they have prevailed under 20 years of sanctions. It's not a civilization that will die tomorrow. Yes, they have their own internal problems. They have their own internal problems with Azeris and Baluchistanis and so forth and so on. However, they have what it takes to fight, and they are fighting a good cause. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's got to do with racism, injustice, killing, beheading babies, shooting them, driving on. People are going to pick food that you have told them to go and pick, and then you use them for pot shots, shoot off their heads. I've been following this and I've been watching the videos from all sides. I have friends in Israel, I have friends in Iran, some of them are my schoolmates, and everybody has given me links to their podcasts, you know, their propaganda. And I follow all of them and I watch everything, and I see it. Israel went to bomb Al Jazeera's, in fact, the news, a building that contained about 20 news agencies. Nothing happened. Resolution after resolution, resolution after resolution, nothing happens. So for me, I think that the solution to the problem is a defeat of the Zionist supremacy, white supremacy regime. That's number one. Once that is defeated, or they've been brought to a stage where they are not capable, then we can negotiate for a one-state solution where all men are equal. Simple. Like we've done in South Africa. It's not that the world has not seen that before. We've seen that before. If we had not done that in South Africa and the revolutionary forces had not forced or won the wars in Rhodesia and Namibia and Southern Africa, I can bet you that by now Ghana would have been turned upside down. They'll come for Ghana as well, especially with our gold. They'll come for you. Because it's a white supremacy mindset that has developed, and the tools that are used to perpetuate this kind of mindset is apartheid and genocide. These are the tools. And that's why I keep saying that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Hamas and Hezbollah and co, they are all creations of the conflict. Prior to 1982, there was no Hezbollah. Prior to 1991, there was no Hamas. It is the oppression that has created these institutions. And out of these institutions are simple resistance movements that are using all tools that are available to them to fight the resistance, which includes terrorism. The same way the Israeli state is also using terrorism to try to kill, to destroy the people of Palestine. I think that there's room and chance for peace. Donald Trump himself said it. He said these two people have been fighting for so long, they don't even know what they are fighting over. However, for us, we know what they are fighting over. They are fighting for their dignity. People of Palestine are fighting for who they are, not what others have made them to be. They cannot be refugees forever. They cannot live abroad forever. They cannot be slaves on their own land. No. If it happened 200 years ago in the Americas and it was okay because there was no media, there was no social media, we didn't understand, we didn't see. Today we condemn it. But we cannot be watching a live feed genocide and massacre of a people and pretend not to see. No, we are not Egyptian mummies. We have eyes, we see, we have ears, we hear, we have noses, we can smell. And if it looks like genocide, it is genocide. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, this is Dr. Akovasek-Befia, who says, I'm confused by the position of the CJ. First, she exposed the committee to attack by revealing the venue of his sitting. Secondly, by saying her trial is politically motivated, has brought to question her understanding of the law she's supposed to uphold. And thirdly, it is surprising that the CJ of our apex court and CJ, for that matter, decided to take her case to the court of public opinion. Finally, SENA, it is my prayer for her to be found not culpable, so that we watch how she will perform her duties as Chief Justice. There is Lee, who says, let's get our histories right, please. Part of Togo was not added to Ghana. At the time of the plebiscite, we had Gold Coast. Even some parts of the Volta region were already in Gold Coast before the plebiscite, so they didn't vote. Mr. Uso.
Let me begin by discussing what Ghana's foreign policy is and relate it to the sort of commentaries that are run by some people who feel superior. I mean, this Zionist movement across the world is not only akin to what is happening between Israel and Iran, but rather they extend their nonsense to those of us in Africa, and as for us, they don't even respect us at all. And that is why you can have the ambassador of Israel to Ghana, Gilad, come here, invite the press, put a microphone before him, and tell the country his peace of mind, without any fear of being reprimanded. The very day that man was able to question the decision of a sovereign nation called Ghana, I gave up. By now, he should be packing bag and every accoutrement leaving this country. But he still finds himself here. Remember the one that he took over from, that woman. As for her, she was moving from one radio station to the other. She was doing politics with us. Local politics. But does it surprise you? The other guy, what's the name? The UK...
John Benjamin.
As for him, I think he wants to take Ghana card. I'm sure he has one. I'm sure he has even voted in this country before. Nothing concerns him about UK politics, only Ghana politics. Ghana has a foreign policy, which is non-alignment. We believe in Pan-Africanism, international cooperation, and our local interest. That is all to it. All we expect, all our governments are expected to do is to make sure that we are friendly with all nations. We don't want to fight with anybody. For you to draw us into your needless battles. That will not be countenanced. And I believe that some sanctions must be rolled out to that ambassador who is here, not doing his ambassadorial duties, but rather interfering in our local governance. It's so bad. SENA, my brother has done a beautiful rendition of what is happening in the Middle East. I'll just pick one, and one, only one. It's all about business. It's about the West trying to, as it were, use the back door to silence China on top of it. If you look at Iran and you look at Russia, China, where does China get most of its crude from? Gets a lot of crude from Iran. And for you to make China powerless, you must curtail the supply of or the control of crude. And so what must we do? We must go back and play the old book, Israel, Iran, so that the world will feel that, oh, it's a usual battle. Then they would destroy Iran and then get hold of the commodity they call oil and to be using it against China. That's what we are dealing with. So you have Netanyahu who is sitting there, and interestingly they have been able to create a situation where, and our Muslim brothers in this country are also falling into it. They create the impression that it's a Muslim-Christian fight. And so when you go on various social media platforms, I always advise my Muslim brothers that don't reduce it to a Muslim. It has nothing to do with it. Read about the lines. Read in between the lines. Call them out. Use superlative argument to call them out and not religious matters. God has nothing. I have dealt with a lot of Iranians, and they are the smartest, one of the smartest people you can meet on earth. So smart. They know how to do business.
Very truthful.
So you don't have to be, as it were, be a victim of propaganda. Israel must be told in the face that they have been misbehaving in this world for far too long. For Christ's sake, we are in 2025. And as he was saying, the current group of people occupying Jerusalem and Co., they are not Jews. They are not original Jews. Look, if you read the Bible, Songs of Psalm 1:5, it tells Solomon was speaking to the people. What did he say? He said, no, I'm black. I'm beautiful. How many blacks have you seen in there who call them Jews? Caucasians sitting there and telling us that they are Jews. They don't even, and those of you who are Christians here who are also thinking that it's your battle, the Jews, they don't even, those who believe in Judaism, they don't respect Christianity.
No, they spit on them every day.
And you are here. Interestingly, they go there, they say, oh, they are going to Christian pilgrimage or whatever. Mark, this country, what's wrong with this? So they must be called out. Iran must do everything possible if they intend to have a nuclear whatever, they must have it. As Reagan said, if you pull a gun and I pull a gun, we all sit down and speak sense. There will not be any war. This bully world where people have nukes, so they always want to threaten us. Today is Iran, tomorrow it will be Ghana. But you in 1968 or so that they signed the NPT? Has Israel signed the non-proliferation treaty?
No.
You haven't signed it. Iran, that you are creating the impression that they are vagabonds, they are tyrants, they are so wicked. They have signed it. They allowed their facilities to be inspected by the International Atomic Agency. You don't do that. Yet you want us to believe it because you are Israel. Hey, a day is coming, they have to be careful. They must know their history. It used to be United Kingdom that was so powerful. Soviet Union came in. All of them, where are they now? America definitely will fall. In fact, they are on the verge of falling. Power will shift to the other continents. But they must watch how they are treating those without nukes today. For tomorrow, if they also have superior technology, the dose you gave them will be the same dose that they will give to you. You cannot just be entering into a sovereign country and do whatever pleases you. Kill innocent people and tell us to support you. That is wrong. And it will be resisted with the last blood. Kudos to the Iranians. They show something, but for the intervention of the US, I'm telling you by now, they would have finished Israel. They have been convincing the world we have Mossad, you have Foucault, we don't have anything. They would have finished them. And I agree with me also that a lot of the people in that Middle East are compromised. Countries that have money, they are compromised. They are the reason why Israel is emboldened to be doing whatever they think is right. But I dare say that America was very smart on this occasion. They processed it. War wouldn't help their cause. And so, if today there is a ceasefire, that ceasefire must be ceasefire. If the Israelis make the mistake of firing one, Iran, you must fire 10. That's how you do some of these things. After all, blood will be, hey, look, whether bombs or no bombs, you are going to die at a point. Whether bomb or no bomb, we will live. So this business of bomb is coming, we are going to sit down and chip in ourselves. No! If it has to be Mugamu, it has to be Mugamu. Everybody goes. So that the world would understand that it pays for all of us to respect each other. Not master-servant relationship. They must stop that. I'll end it. The time is not a friendly element today. Next week we'll come back on it. And let me greet Mr. Beto and the wife. They are watching you. They are in the OT region.
And good morning to them. Two things, thank you, Mr. Solomon also. Two things that Asanko in Santa Maria is commenting on. First, the Chief Justice, by linking the killing of 3 judges and a retired soldier, the CJ creating the impression that that unfortunate incident was a decision of the then government. Is it not unfortunate and unfair for her to be creating that impression? And then he also says, whenever these self-acclaimed policemen of the world want to attack any nation of the world, they only have to conspire to accuse that country of one thing or the other. Didn't they do the same thing to the late Saddam Hussein and make sure he was killed based on falsehood? Asanko in Santa Maria said that. Then there's Masola Pabli, who is commenting on our very first discussion. The previous and current utterances of the suspended CJ Getru Tokono has vindicated my stance. The time she was appointed that she will be worse than her predecessor, Enimi Ebua. She said she was threatened with harm if she doesn't resign. If someone was to come to a court and say he or she has been threatened without any evidence, we should listen to the person. The needless pressure of a few days ago is just to court for public sympathy. She doesn't deserve to disrespect the president in addition. It's as simple as that. That's Masol Akpabli. I was so his constituency.
Do you know the Chief Justice is going back to court?
Yes.
After saying all these things, she has gone back to the High Court.
Yeah.
I mean, how can we be treated like that?
Well, this Egypt too says, congrats to the former Tema Central MP. Impressive on the issue of Iran and the Israeli war. Long live the progressive forces, long live the Palestinian people. Comrade?
Well, Sena, I think that my 2 colleagues have done justice to the topic. Suffices to say that I would just build on some of the things they said. And 2 points they each made, which I think is very critical in our engagement on the issue of one, Palestine, Israel, and the recent Iran-Israel, and the entire geopolitics within the Gulf area. One, it has nothing to do with religion, and I think that people need to understand this clearly. And I say this, if you look at the religious, demarcations of both within occupied Palestine, which is known as Israel now, and where the Palestinians have been excluded to be, majority of them, is Gaza. There are some who are in the West Bank and Ramallah and other areas. Gaza is a refugee center by the very people who were killed, hounded when Israel was created. So you are a refugee in your own country. Currently in Israel, they have about 73.6% Jews, and have about 18% Muslims, and just 1.9% Christians, and those you call the Ziruj, or the Jews, which is about 1.5%. So there are more even Christians in Palestine than you have it in Israel. There are a lot of similarities between Muslims and Christians, which are all supported by Scripture. It is incumbent on you, for you to call yourself a Muslim, you must believe in Jesus Christ, which is Isa. The only disagreement is the Trinity. Either that you are enjoined to believe that Jesus Christ, whereas Muslims see him as a prophet, Christians see him as one God, the Son, and then the Holy Spirit. That is where you have the distinction. But the point of departure between Judaism and Christianity is at the core of Christianity. They don't even believe that Jesus Christ was even a prophet or a Messiah. He's nothing. In fact, as a matter of fact, if you read in the Torah, they describe Mary as a whore and describe Jesus Christ as a bastard. That's how the Torah Jews, that is the core of their value. There was a survey which was done, and I have the videos, to ask Jews on the street of Israel whether they would feel comfortable to pray in the church, in a mosque. All of them said they would feel comfortable to pray in the mosque than in the church. So there are some commonalities between Islam and Judaism, but there is absolutely no between Judaism and Christianity. But there is so much between Muslim. Islam and Christianity, and also between that. So I think that we need to get this very, very clearly. It is incumbent on every Muslim that when you give birth to a child, you circumcise. That is the position of the Torah. The position of Islam, that you believe in just one God, we don't believe in Trinity, is the same position of the Torah. The position of Muslims that you don't even eat pork, even though in the Bible too we are enjoined not to eat pork. There are a lot of scriptures to that. So I agree absolutely. It has nothing to do with religion. As a matter of fact, if you take Lebanon have majority. If you want to take one single religious belief, Christian seems to be the majority, because among the Muslims they are divided between Shia and Sunni, and you have Christians on one block, which is almost 45% of the population in Lebanon, and the 55 Muslims are sharply divided between Sunni and Shia. And I remember during the Lebanon-Israel conflict, where many people were killed, and you could tell that out of 3 people who were killed, one was bound to be a Christian. And these were the people who were killed. Yet you had even pastors who were absolutely uninformed. They preach and then they say, we stand with Israel. I think that people need to get some of these points very clear. The other thing has to do with the support of this particular conflict we have. It is very clear. Jordan gave their airspace for Israel to attack what's the name? Iran. Jordan is a Muslim country. And in fact, more than half of the people who stay there are from Palestine. Azerbaijan is predominantly a Muslim country. They aided Israel. In fact, Israel gets about 40% of their oil from Azerbaijan. The oil passes through Turkey, another Muslim country, to Israel. Whereas the war was being prosecuted, Israel could not have survived without the oil they get from these Muslim countries. So I think we need to get some of these things very, very clearly. If you look at Palestine, over 90% of the people who live in Palestine, even though they are Muslims, but they are also, majority of them are in the Sunni sect. Iran is supposed to be Shia. And let me tell you the sharp difference between the Sunni and the Shia. It has nothing to do with the core functions and principles of the religion. It has to do with which particular person who was supposed to be the caliph. They believe that the heir apparent, the Sunni believe the heir apparent was supposed to be Ali. And Ali's mother was a Persian. Mind you, Iranians are not Arabs. They are Persians. So it has nothing to do with the 5 pillars of Islam, the articles of faith, what would make you a Muslim. It has nothing, the differences between Shia and Sunni has nothing to do with that. It has to do with principles, with administration, with some of the values, but as to the core functions. But sometimes the division is so intense that each sometimes feel very comfortable to even deal with Christians and other people in other faith than dealing with their Muslim brothers and sisters because of the division of Shia and Sunni. And let's get this point very clear. So if you look at Yemen, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, they are Shias. If you look at the Yemen, the Houthis, they are Shias. If you come to Syria, majority of the people who live in Syria were Sunni, but the leadership of the political leadership were Shia. If you go to Bahrain, majority of them are Shia, but the leadership are Sunni. So religion, when I hear people talk about religion as one of the reasons why, I get completely confused. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the geopolitics of the area. Of course, sometimes people write at the back of religion because they know religious beliefs are emotionally driven. So if I use religion, I could get the support. And I'll give you a classical example. When Iraq invaded, Iraq had problems with Iran. It had nothing to do with religion. When Saddam Hussein, who was described in all manner of names, had nothing to do with religion. Because in any case, Saddam Hussein, who is a Sunni, but majority of the people in Iraq were Shia, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. Kuwait is predominantly a Sunni country. But when Saddam Hussein was at the back burner, then he used religion as a basis for his fight, because people will always hide behind religion to justify why they do one or the other thing. But let me also make this point very clear. On the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was indeed started sometimes in the 1968 and it was signed and entered into in 1970. What it simply means is that those who already have nuclear weapons, no one will have it again. United States came with nuclear weapons in 1945. Russia came, I think, 4 years after that, 1949. Britain, 1950. Then France and other countries indeed followed. Now, these countries who indeed had nuclear weapons, and you can describe them as the victors of the Second World War. If you look at the United Nations system, and there's something we call the what's the name? Consensus. Is it Zeleno? I've forgotten the name. There's a term. Now, if you look at the United Nations, you have 15 member states, the Security Council. 5 are permanent. 5 are permanent. And for a decision to be taken at the United Nations Security Council, you must have 9 voting for that decision. And out of that 9, all the 5 members, the permanent members, must all agree. If one says no, that will not be binding. So clearly, the United Nations was crafted to satisfy the victors of the Second World War. In terms of military might and economic might, countries have indeed gone today. Germany is the biggest economic country biggest economy in Europe. Germany is not a member of the Security Council. Turkey is not a member of the Security Council. There are countries, China. China is a member. India is not a member of the Security Council. And there have been some concerns. Africa even has a position. And we feel that for fairness to be seen at the Security Council, which is the highest decision-making body of the United Nations when it comes to security matters, the authority to declare whether there should be a war or there should be a military intervention in any country across the globe must be taken by the Security Council. Then you have majority of the countries are not members. So the issue of Iran and Israel has absolutely nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with Arab or not Arab. It has to do with power play. Israel is not a signatory to the NPT. They are not. But Israel has never given access to anybody to find out whether they indeed have nuclear weapons or not. When it is established that they do have, Israel, in my opinion, is not a country, it's a project.
Yes,
it's a project of the Western world. Because why? Iran consistently said they do not have weapons of mass destruction. And mind you, the NPT was done to ensure that those who already have, nuclear weapons and chemical weapons, no other country should have it. What would have been fair was that all those who had, let's destroy everything, so that we know that nobody has it. But the NPT was not seeking to do that. The NPT was saying that those who have it, no other country should have it. You have all the 5 member countries have nuclear weapons, apart from 3 or 4. North Korea, which was a member of the NPT signatory, they withdrew in 2003, and by 2006, they tested their first nuclear weapon. You have Pakistan. Pakistan had nuclear weapons in the 70s. You have India, that has nuclear weapons. And you have Israel. So these are the 4 countries of the United Nations who are not members of the Security Council, who are not the 5, permanent security members, who all have nuclear weapons. And Iran consistently said we do not have. Open have more than 100% access to IAEA, to come and witness. And they were monitoring. There was also even an agreement between the United States of America and the Western world and Iran, that they had 24/7 monitoring. Now, you must enrich. There's nothing wrong with enriching, if you like, uranium. You can enrich uranium. Other countries have uranium at such enriched level. Ghana, we can also have. We used to have. And this is something I'll be looking at. GAIC, and under the previous administration, for some reasons, they shipped this to China. It's something I'll be looking at.
They shipped
the uranium we had to China. I just got the information, and it's something I would insist the proper investigation should be done in that matter. Many other advanced countries, because you use enriched uranium for power, for nuclear power.
for research.
In fact, Ghana, if you look at the Atomic Energy Commission, we are working on towards nuclear. In fact, if Nkrumah administration was not criminally truncated, we should have been dependent on nuclear as a source of energy. Because if you look at GAIC today, they are selling GAIC's land left, right, and center. It's a matter I'm looking into. So I'm saying that all those things, there's nothing wrong with enriching uranium for civil purposes,
Yes.
for domestic purposes, to be able to have stable energy. You go to the Western world, that you don't see light out and others because they all depend on nuclear energy as a source of energy for their industry, for their domestic use. Now, Iran says that this is what we use ours for, and there was no question whatsoever. Just few weeks before what happened, Tessil Gaba, what's the name? This guy, the Donald Trump's secretary for, is it for security? Tessil Gaba. Okay. She even indeed in the congressional, appearance indicated clearly that all the security agencies and the intelligence that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. As a matter of fact, the mullah, their religious and spiritual leader, Ayatollah has not recommended that they do that. And Ayatollah's principle, he thinks that it is un-Islamic. It is ungodly for you to have nuclear weapons, and that he never gave any command. Few weeks. Now, America insisted, and it was started by Donald Trump when he shredded the agreement between America and Iran under President Obama. He shredded it. Now Iran says, okay, if we shred it, then we now have the liberty to do whatever we want to do. Iran never had up to the level they claimed they had. Now, if you observed, President Netanyahu, every single year he gives a date. In fact, 20 years ago, he said Iran was just left with some weeks to have nuclear weapons. 10 years later, they are left with 3 months to have nuclear weapons, repeatedly. And he said that in many countries, and those countries, America had military intervention. Classical example is Iraq, Libya. We all saw what happened. Syria, and we have had this. So it is about the interest. And Netanyahu was virtually, in fact, he was being prosecuted. Yeah. Before the conflict we have in between Palestine and Israel. So I think that we need to look at them in that perspective. Last point, our position, our foreign policy position has never been compromised. And when my brother said if he decides to be a Jew today, Judaism today, he will be given free access in, you may not because you are black. Ethiopian Jews, who are the real Jews, they were given a vaccine every 3 months, which is known as the Depo-Provera, every 3 months, to sterilize them so that their number does not multiply. And everybody knows how they are treated, because when they get there, they are not treated like any other white Jews. So it is not just about Judaism, it is about Zionism. There's a sharp difference between Judaism, which is a religion, and Zionism. And that is one thing people need to get very clearly. You can have a black man who believes in Judaism as a religion. It doesn't mean that he believes in Zionism. Zionism is a political movement, but Judaism is a religion. That you have anybody, black, white, and any person can do that. And if you observe, those who are leading the charge to fight against Zionism and the genocide that we experience in Gaza, majority of them are Jews. Sanders, Bernie Sanders is a Jew. As a matter of fact, the primaries that the Democratic Party just had in New York, New York, majority, about 15% of the population in New York are Jews. But they supported a person who condemned what is happening, in a Muslim. Last point, apart from Israel, the only country that you have a lot of Jews living is in Iran.
That is what
they have almost 25%.
The largest Jewish population
in Iran,
outside of Israel.
In Iran, the largest. So it has nothing to do. Yet, and the areas that are bombing, majority of the areas Israel attacked are the areas that you have a lot of these Jews residing. And so I'm saying that we should look at them. Ghana's opposition is non-aligned. In fact, apart from the UP tradition, which at the OAU voted to support apartheid South Africa, Ghana had a position, Africa had a position, and it was only Ghana under the UP tradition. They went to OAU meeting and voted in support of the killing of black South Africans. So, oh yes, it's documented. Bush government supported and voted for it against the position of every country in Africa. But so it is not surprising that you had President Nana, who proudly stated that we stand with Israel against the foreign policy position. And it is not for nothing that we have taken that position in support of the people of Palestine, because it reminds us of our experiences And that is why politically, even at the time when Buzia did that, there were people within the UP party who were against that position. Yes, today, because our experiences should guide us. We have been subjugated, and we have experienced colonial subjugation, just like the people of Palestine. So our position, our foreign policy position, and consistently supporting Palestine when it comes to Palestine and Israel, and taking a non-aligned position when it comes to the geopolitics of the world, it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with our experiences.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Pratt?
Well, look, there's a lot of disinformation about Palestine and about Iran and so on. And the disinformation about Iran is deliberate and calculated. Yesterday, in the evening, when I was driving home, I had an interview that the British Broadcasting Corporation had conducted, BBC. Okay. The BBC had carefully selected 3 persons in the United States of America to interview. And the BBC described them as Iranians. And the BBC sought to establish what the attitude of Iranians are to their government. So they selected 4 people. Now, the 4 people that the BBC selected to interview were 1 man and 3 women. 2 of the women were born in the United States of America. They were born in the United States of America and have no relationship with Iran except that their grandparents were Iranians.
Okay.
Okay? All 4 carry American citizenship. Okay. Now, it's important to realize that Iran is a nation of 92 million people. 92 million people. Even if you assume that these 4 persons who were interviewed were Iranians, bona fide Iranians and so on, there were 4 out of 92 million people. And the BBC played this interview throughout yesterday. And as I was driving to the studio this morning, they were playing that interview. Now, in that interview, 3 of those who were interviewed said that the Iranian government is a dictatorship which must be overthrown, and that the Iranian people are suffering under this dictatorship and so on. The man amongst the 4 who was interviewed actually described the Iranian government as a communist government. This is what propaganda does.
Of course, the British broadcasting.
And can you imagine? This is what the BBC is doing. So, if you don't know about Iran, you are sitting at home, you tune in to BBC, and you get this information from BBC. They are, of course, they are presented to you as Iranians and so on. So you get the impression that Iran is hell, and that Iranians are fed up with their government. Now, while the BBC was broadcasting this interview, hundreds of thousands of Iranians living in Iran were pouring onto the streets of Iran with Iranian flags, chanting death to Israel and death to America. So you see what Western propaganda is made up of and can do. I mean, under what circumstance will anybody who knows his politics right describe Iran as a communist regime? But you see, it fits into the anti-communist hysteria in the Trump administration and the United States of America. And the BBC feeds into that. But Senna, that is not all. Of the 4 people who were interviewed, one of them criticized Israel and said that Israel has no right to bomb Iran. Do you know why that 4th person was introduced? That 4th person is introduced in order to give a false impression that the BBC is neutral. Even those who are for Iran, we talk to them too, but 1 out of 4. So it's all so carefully shaped. Now, as the BBC is interviewing these 4 people, thousands of Americans are on the streets demonstrating in support of Palestine and Iran. That would not be broadcast. It will not be broadcast. So this is how we have all been shaped. This narrative about Israel being a Christian country and a democracy and so on, it has been fed to us by Voice of America, by the British Broadcasting Corporation, by CNN, by New York Times, and so on. They have fed this lies to us. Unfortunately, many of us have imbibed these lies because we don't have alternative sources of information. Last week, Saturday, I was driving. Again, I was driving. It's only when I'm driving that I listen to radio. And I tuned into one radio station, and there was a woman on air. And she said, she now hates her pastor. This is a woman. Because this pastor has completely misled her. And that all her life she's been going to this church, and the pastor has been telling her that Israel or Israelis are the chosen people of God. And that Jesus is an Israeli and so on. Now, she has come to realize after all Jesus was a Palestinian. That indeed the Church of Nativity, which was built on the manger where Jesus was born, is in Palestine. It's not in Israel. Now, she has come to realize that there are more Christians in Palestine than there are in Israel. Now she has come to realize that in fact the Zionists, and I think we need to make a distinction between Zionists and Jews. They are not the same. That the Zionists in Israel actually believe that Christians are idol worshippers who should be killed. And there's a video in which these Zionists confront Christians and say, you must be killed. The Torah tells us that you are idol worshippers and we have a right to kill you, and so on. This innocent woman is only beginning to learn of this reality. This innocent woman is only beginning to learn that the Pope of the Catholic Church constantly expressed solidarity with the Palestinian people. Yeah. And there was no day before his death, I'm talking about Pope Francis, you understand? There was no day before his death that he did not call Gaza to express his solidarity. They're not waking up to that. All these charlatans, and I mean it, I'm not joking. Yeah. All these charlatans masquerading as prophets and archbishops and so on.
They are more criminal.
Thank you, Solo. These are Azar people. These are scammers who know nothing. They don't know anything. Scammers. Azar people, poisoning our society, poisoning the minds of innocent people with garbage dressed up as religion. So that is where all this anti-Iran hostility and so on comes from. Look, one of the things that they have used against Iran, and to great effect, is their claim that the Iranians don't respect women. The rights of women are being violated in Iran and so on. You see, if you don't know, you will come to that conclusion. The first woman mathematician to get the Nobel Prize. Is it? No, yeah. Was Iranian. How come? How come? Indeed, today, more Iranian women are graduating out of universities than men. How come? In fact, Iran, and I've visited Iran a number of times, women drive, unlike
Saudi.
Unlike other Arab and Islamic states, women drive. Women, and you see, this Western propagandists, what they say is that women wear hijab in Iran, and therefore they are discriminated against. And when I go to Iran, I wonder where that is coming from. In fact, interestingly, Iranian women have a way of dressing. They wear scarves. The scarves are worn halfway on the head, so their face is exposed. Their hair is even exposed.
Very beautiful woman.
So I don't know where.
When you go to the Vatican, the nuns also cover their head.
Oh, Maza.
When I went to Iran, I was shocked. To be very honest with you, I was shocked. I was thinking that like the other Muslim countries I've visited, where women are supposed to veil, I didn't see much of that. I was shocked.
No, you see only a few women in Iran who wear the hijab as is worn in Saudi Arabia or other places. You understand? But let me tell you this story. I had the privilege of traveling to Tehran with a government official some time ago. So we come from the airport, and you see, from the airport to the city center, it takes you about an hour or two, to get to the city center. So we are driving, going to the city center where our hotel was. And this man is looking out of the window, and you can see that something is happening to him. So halfway, he turns to me and said, "Kwesi, where are we?" And I said, "We are in Tehran." And I said, "Are you sure this is Tehran? Are you sure that the plane didn't take us somewhere else?" He could not believe. One of the most beautiful cities in the world. The roads and so on. In spite of sanctions, in spite of sabotage and so on, Iran has, look, in world ranking, Iran is the number 3 in the development of what they call nanotechnology. Number 3. Its advancement in medicine is beyond belief and so on. Now, you know that Iran has become one of the countries which is regarded as the most advanced in the production of drones.
Yes.
And indeed, Russia has been buying a lot of drones from Iran. Now, how did Iran come to become, how did Iran become one of the leading nations in the production of drones? There was a sophisticated US drone that they were using for surveillance and so on.
They were shot down.
They didn't shoot it down. They didn't shoot it down. Iranian scientists managed to get into the brain of the drone and directed the drone into Iran. And used reverse technology to produce the drone and eventually produce a better drone than the most sophisticated drone that the US had produced. That is how Iran became one of the leading countries when it comes to the production of drones. Can you imagine this? Now today, who are the Zionists and their masters killing? Scientists! Iranian scientists have become targets. They want to kill them. Why? Because Iran is advancing in science. They fear Iranian scientists, so they kill them. You understand? Before this war, what they used to do was to send agents into Tehran. And these agents used to ride motorbikes. And then they would affix bombs to the cars of the scientists as they drive in traffic and explode the cars and kill them. They are afraid of science. The Israelis are afraid of science, the development of science. Right now, there's a huge controversy about the extent of damage that the American bombs, you know, on the Iranian nuclear facilities. Do you know why? You know why? Netanyahu and Trump must demonstrate to their people that they achieved the objectives. Because if they are not able to demonstrate to their people that they achieved the objectives, the people will then begin to question them about the enormous amount of resources they spent on this war and so on. So they are jumping over themselves to create the impression that they were very successful. But you see, the doubts are coming from the intelligence services of both the US and Israel. Indeed, the Trump administration is not denying the fact that there was a leak of an initial assessment of the damage that they caused. In any case, let us assume that they went there and they destroyed the buildings and so on. Well, what is that? The most important thing is the enriched uranium and the scientists to work with it, not the buildings. Yes, sir. And I heard the Ayatollah Khomeini actually laughing at Trump and saying that they were bombing smoke. That what they were bombing was smoke. None of the objectives they set themselves in this aggression against Iran was achieved. None. Not one objective was achieved. Regime change was not achieved. I don't believe that they managed to destroy the nuclear facility. Iranian military capability, they haven't even used half of what they have. In fact, all the missiles and so on they were throwing at Israel were all generation missiles that they have produced. Their modern weapons were not used in this war. Iran is still a major force. Now listen, there's about 1,600 kilometers between Iran and Israel. And that is why the war was fought in the air. They don't have common boundaries. 1,600 kilometers between them. But Iran has tremendous geographical advantage over Israel. Tremendous geographical advantage. And that tremendous geographical advantage is this, that every war, eventually, you have to take over the ground. You can dominate the air, you can drop bombs from the air, you can do whatever you want from the air. Eventually, you have to put boots on the ground in order to confirm whatever victories you are achieving in the air. Between Iran and Israel, there's 1,600 kilometers. But Iran has fighting forces right on all the borders of Israel. So it has supreme geographical advantage over Israel. Yesterday I listened to Donald Trump and he said, what? The last few days of the war, Israel took a beating from Iran. This is Donald Trump. Donald Trump said, what? How Iran whipped Israel in the last few days. And that is why they had to quickly go in to assist. And that is why Donald Trump was begging for a ceasefire, crying, please ceasefire, because they knew. In fact, intelligence analysts had said that the weaponry available to Israel could not last beyond 10 days. 10 days. So if this war had continued for more than 10 days, where would Israel be? Look, if you see the images in Tel Aviv and other places and so on, Haifa and so on, some of the places were beginning to look like Gaza. Some of the places. They were looking like Gaza. Israeli cities were being reduced to the standard of Gaza. You understand? So Israel had to cut their losses very quickly and to run away because defeat was staring them in the face. Now we are waiting to see what the Israeli public will do to Netanyahu. And I can promise you that very soon they are going to eat Netanyahu alive. Very soon. Because they are now going to do an assessment of the lives lost, the resources wasted, and what Israel has achieved. And they'll find that Israel achieved nothing. But you see, I'm getting more worried about what is happening in Ghana. You have a half-baked, completely useless person in Ghana parading as the Israeli ambassador to Ghana. And this guy is called Roy Gillard. He has the effrontery to insult Ghana's government, to cast doubt on the mental capacity of those who manage our foreign policy and so on. He has the effrontery, this Roy Gillard has the effrontery to call the media, the Ghanaian media, and to tell them that our foreign policy options are wrong and that we should not abide by decisions of the non-aligned movement, that we should not be tied to the AU, the African Union. We, Ghana, should not be tied to the African Union. And that we should create a wedge between us and the Arab League and so on. And he's still walking about. I mean, last week I was so very happy that the Minister for Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Okudzeto Ablakwa, actually called him and gave him a dressing. And I thought that he was going to pipe down. He was going to go slow. What? Then yesterday I saw Gillard again, Roy Gillard again. He's breaking chains. Now he's accusing the government of Ghana of not taking Ghanaian security seriously. And that Iran is establishing terrorist groups in Ghana and so on. Terrorism. If there was a country we could accuse of terrorism, is it Iran? Terrorism? Israel is the worst terrorist state in history. Israel is the country which, you know, other countries commit murder and atrocities in other places, but they hide to commit them. The CIA was involved in the overthrow of Nkrumah. They are still denying in spite of the evidence. Okay? Belgium intelligence was complicit in the murder of Patrice Lumumba. They are still denying and so on. But Israel, they announce their intentions even before it is done. Israel boasts about terrorism. The terrorism is able to carry out. Israel is the #1 terrorist state in the world. And we have allowed this half-baked diplomat nitwit to be walking around lecturing us on diplomacy and making all kinds of frivolous allegations against friendly nations and so on. Gillard must go home. We should start a campaign. Gillard must go home. All of us. Every opportunity you get, call for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador in Ghana. He is a problem. And we have to get rid of him. Gillard must go home.
Gillard, you must go.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And we have to conclude the show on this note. There's okay, well, I just wanted, because we were talking about Catholic Church, this Catholic news agency, the Pope, who is called the American Pope, actually holds the citizenship of Peru, says, this is one of the comments he made recently about this war. How can we continue to betray the desire of the world's people for peace with propaganda about weapons buildup, as if military supremacy will resolve problems instead of fueling even greater hatred and desire for revenge? Well, a big thank you to our panel for today. In fact, there's someone on our WhatsApp platform who says, "SENA, I put it to you, make this fantastic panelists sit for you, your session all the time. It's refreshing listening to these people, embody with all the issues." Wumpuni from Tamale sent that. I can the other three, I'm not so sure. I can tell you, Mr. Pratt, whenever he's available, he's always available, he'll be here. And the same for Solomon Nowo. So, yes. I should encourage him.
We will encourage him too.
And it's always wonderful to see you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is Hansen, okay, Ninoy Hansen Notti. He is former member of parliament for Tema Central. And of course, sitting to my left is the Honorable Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Note where I put the Honorable Minister. He is Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. Because he's Comrade, we always forget that he also has, he's also supposed to have the doctor. But we usually forget that we always do the Comrade. Because as always, it's beautiful to see Solomon Nowo, who is a member of the Movement for Change. And then, as always, last but not least, of course not, General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr. A big thank you to you. You are an important part of the show. We apologize for the late start of the show once again. We had some technical issues that took some time to deal with. Thankfully, our technicians were able to turn the situation around, and at least I'm sure you enjoyed the show. Thank you for your comments. We'll see you same time next week with another edition of the show. Until then, have a fruitful, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a fruitful week and make time.